Have you ever watched someone do something amazing and thought, I wish I could do that? Maybe you saw someone playing a beautiful song on the piano, or speaking a foreign language fluently, or creating incredible art. And you felt that mix of admiration and maybe a little bit of envy. That feeling of, wow, I want to learn how to do that too. I think we've all been there. I know I have. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily, and welcome to English Club Podcast. I'm so happy you're here with me today. Whether you're listening while you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing at home, thank you for choosing to spend this time learning English with me. You know, something happened to me just yesterday that inspired today's topic. I was at a coffee shop, and I saw someone sitting at a table with a sketchbook. They were drawing the most beautiful portrait. I watched them for a moment, amazed at how their pencils seemed to dance across the paper, creating this incredible image from nothing. And I felt that familiar feeling, that longing to be able to create something like that. I've always wanted to learn to draw, but I've never really committed to it. I tell myself I don't have time, or I'm not talented enough, or I'm too old to start learning something new. But watching that person draw made me think about learning in general, about why we want to learn new skills, about what stops us, about how we actually go about learning something new. And I realized this would be such a valuable topic for us to explore together. Today, we're going to talk all about learning new skills. We're going to discuss why learning is important, what challenges we face when learning something new, and how to talk about your learning journey in English. This is such a practical topic because learning is a lifelong process. Whether you're a student, a professional, or retired, you're always learning something. And being able to talk about learning in English is really useful. You might need to discuss your skills in a job interview. You might want to share your learning goals with a teacher or mentor. You might want to connect with others who are learning the same thing. So today, we're going to make sure you have the language and confidence to talk about learning new skills. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying this podcast, please like and subscribe to our channel for more English learning podcasts. It really helps us create more content for you. And if you find this episode helpful, share it with someone who's also on a learning journey. We really appreciate your support. All right, let's get started. Let me begin by talking about vocabulary. When we discuss learning new skills, there are some key words and phrases you need to know. First, the word skill itself. A skill is an ability to do something well, usually because you've practiced it. For example, cooking is a skill. Speaking English is a skill. Driving a car is a skill. Skills are things you can develop and improve over time. We often talk about hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are specific, teachable abilities, like using a computer program, playing an instrument, or performing surgery. Soft skills are more general abilities, like communication, teamwork, or time management. Another important word is talent. Talent is a natural ability or aptitude for something. Some people are naturally talented at music or sports or math. But here, it's something important. Talent is not the same as skill. Talent might give you a head start, but skills are developed through practice and effort. We use the word learn when we acquire knowledge or skills through study or experience. For example, I'm learning to play the guitar, or she learned French in school. The verb practice means to do something repeatedly to improve at it. Practice makes perfect, as the saying goes. For example, I practice piano every day for 30 minutes. We say master when someone becomes very skilled at something. To master a skill means to achieve a high level of expertise. For example, it takes years to master a language. The word beginner describes someone who's just starting to learn something. For example, I'm a complete beginner at photography. The opposite is expert or advanced learner. Progress is an important word. Progress means improvement or forward movement in learning. For example, I'm making good progress with my Spanish lessons. We use challenge to describe something difficult. Learning has many challenges. For example, pronunciation is my biggest challenge when learning English. The phrase give up means to stop trying. Many people give up when learning gets difficult, but we encourage people to keep going, to persevere. Persevere means to continue despite difficulties. For example, if you persevere with your studies, you'll eventually succeed. Let me give you some example sentences using this vocabulary. Learning new skills keeps your mind active and sharp. I have a natural talent for languages, but I still need to practice regularly. She's learning to code and making great progress. Playing the violin is challenging, but I'm not giving up. It took him years to master woodworking, but now he's an expert. I'm a complete beginner at tennis, so I need a lot of practice. The hardest part of learning is persevering when you feel stuck. See how these words work together? They help us talk about the learning process in a natural way. Now, let me share some personal stories about my own experiences with learning new skills. I think this will help illustrate how these concepts work in real life. One skill I've been trying to learn for the past year is cooking. I know that might sound funny. Everyone has to eat, so everyone cooks to some degree, right? But I mean really cooking. Not just making simple meals, but actually understanding techniques, flavors, how ingredients work together. I grew up in a household where my mom did most of the cooking. I helped sometimes, but I never really learned properly. When I moved out on my own, I survived on very basic meals. Pasta with store-bought sauce, sandwiches, takeout. I could follow a recipe, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. Then about a year ago, I decided I wanted to change that. I wanted to learn to cook properly. Not to become a professional chef, but to be confident and competent in the kitchen. So I started my learning journey. And let me tell you, it's been humbling. I've made so many mistakes. I've burned food, I've added too much salt, I've created dishes that looked nothing like the pictures in the cookbook. But I've also learned so much. At first, I tried to learn from YouTube videos. I would watch chefs make beautiful meals and think, that looks easy. Then I'd try it myself and realize it was much harder than it looked. The chef would say things like season to taste or cook until done, and I had no idea what that actually meant. How much seasoning? How do I know when it's done? I realized I needed more structured learning, so I signed up for a beginner's cooking class. This was a great decision. Having a teacher who could answer my questions and correct my mistakes made a huge difference. I learned basic techniques like how to properly cut vegetables, how to cook rice perfectly, how to make a basic sauce. But more importantly, I learned that learning a new skill takes time and patience. I can't expect to become a great cook overnight. It's a process. Every meal I make, even the failures, is a learning experience. Can you relate to this? Have you tried to learn something new and found it harder than you expected? Let me tell you about another skill I'm working on, public speaking. This is interesting because public speaking is something I have to do for my work, but I've never felt confident about it. I'm okay with speaking to small groups or one-on-one, but put me in front of a large audience and I get nervous. My heart races, my hands shake, my voice gets shaky. I forget what I wanted to say. For a long time, I avoided public speaking whenever possible, but I realized this was holding me back professionally, so I decided to face this fear and improve this skill. I started by learning about public speaking. I read books and articles, I watched TED Talks and analyzed what made them effective. I learned about techniques like making eye contact, using pauses for emphasis, and structuring a presentation. But reading about public speaking and actually doing it are very different things. I knew I needed practice, so I joined a local Toastmasters club. Toastmasters is an organization where people practice public speaking in a supportive environment. My first speech at Toastmasters was terrifying. I was so nervous, I thought I might forget everything. But you know what? I got through it. It wasn't perfect, but I did it. And each time I spoke, it got a little bit easier. I'm still not a confident public speaker. I still get nervous, but I'm so much better than I was a year ago. And I've learned an important lesson. You don't have to be perfect to make progress. You just have to keep trying. This experience taught me a lot about the learning process. It taught me that discomfort is part of learning. When you're learning something new, you're supposed to feel awkward and unsure. That's how you know you're growing. Have you ever avoided learning something because it made you uncomfortable? Now, let me talk about different types of skills people commonly want to learn. Understanding these categories might help you think about your own learning goals. One major category is language skills. Learning a foreign language is one of the most popular skills people want to develop. Maybe you're learning English right now. Language learning is challenging but incredibly rewarding. It opens up new cultures, opportunities, and connections. Another category is creative skills. This includes things like drawing, painting, photography, writing, music, dance, or crafts. Creative skills allow you to express yourself and create something beautiful or meaningful. Technical skills are abilities related to technology or specialized equipment. This might include coding, using software, repairing electronics, or operating machinery. In our modern world, technical skills are increasingly valuable. Physical skills involve using your body. This includes sports, martial arts, yoga, dancing, or activities like swimming or cycling. Physical skills are good for your health and can be a lot of fun. Practical life skills are abilities that help you in daily life. Cooking, gardening, sewing, basic home repair, financial management. These skills make you more self-sufficient and capable. Professional skills are abilities related to your career. This might include leadership, project management, sales, negotiation, or industry-specific expertise. Developing professional skills can advance your career. Social skills involve interacting with others effectively. Public speaking, networking, conflict resolution, active listening. Good social skills improve your relationships and opportunities. What type of skill are you most interested in learning, or what have you learned recently? Let me teach you some phrases for talking about learning. These expressions will help you discuss your learning journey naturally. When you're starting to learn something, you can say, I'm learning to play the guitar. I've started taking photography classes. I'm trying to pick up some basic coding skills. I've begun studying Mandarin Chinese. I'm working on improving my communication skills. Notice we use different verbs: learning, taking classes, picking up, studying, working on. They all describe the learning process, but with slightly different nuances. When talking about your progress, you might say, I'm making good progress with my French. I've improved a lot since I started. I'm getting better at public speaking. I can already see the difference in my skills. I still have a long way to go, but I'm getting there. When discussing challenges, you can say, I'm struggling with pronunciation. The grammar is really difficult for me. I find it hard to stay motivated. Time management is my biggest challenge. I keep making the same mistakes. When explaining your motivation for learning, you might say, I want to learn Spanish because I'm moving to Mexico. I'm learning to code to change careers. Photography has always interested me, so I decided to learn. I need to improve my Excel skills for work. I'm learning piano just for fun and personal satisfaction. When talking about practice and dedication, you can say, I practice every day for at least 30 minutes. I try to dedicate time to learning each week. I'm committed to improving this skill. I set aside time specifically for practice. I make learning a priority in my schedule. Let me give you some complete examples of how you might use these phrases in conversation. I'm learning to speak Japanese because I've always been fascinated by Japanese culture. I'm making steady progress, though kanji characters are really challenging for me. I practice writing every day, and I'm committed to becoming conversational within 2 years. I've started taking salsa dancing classes. I've always wanted to learn to dance, and I finally decided to just go for it. I'm a complete beginner, so I feel pretty awkward sometimes, but I'm improving. The rhythm is still difficult for me, but I'm not giving up. See how these phrases create a natural narrative about learning? Now, let me talk about the stages of learning a new skill. Understanding these stages can help you be patient with yourself and recognize your progress. Stage 1 is unconscious incompetence. This is when you don't even know what you don't know. For example, before I started learning to cook, I didn't realize how much there was to learn. I thought cooking was simple. I was incompetent, but I didn't know it. Stage 2 is conscious incompetence. This is when you realize how much you don't know. When I took my first cooking class, I suddenly became aware of all my gaps in knowledge. I knew I was incompetent, and it was humbling. This stage can be discouraging, but it's actually progress, because awareness is the first step to improvement. Stage 3 is conscious competence. This is when you can do something, but it requires focused effort and concentration. I'm at this stage with cooking now. I can follow recipes and techniques, but I have to think carefully about each step. It's not automatic yet. Stage 4 is unconscious competence. This is when you've practiced so much that the skill becomes automatic. You can do it without thinking. Expert cooks are at this stage. They don't need to think about basic techniques. They just flow. Understanding these stages helps me be patient. When I'm at the conscious and competent stage and feeling frustrated, I remind myself, this is normal. Everyone goes through this. It's part of the process. Where are you in your learning journey? What stage do you think you're at? Let me share some strategies that have helped me learn new skills more effectively. Strategy 1. Start with the basics. When you're learning something new, it's tempting to jump to advanced techniques, but building a strong foundation is crucial. In cooking, I had to learn basic knife skills and simple recipes before attempting complex dishes. In language learning, you need to master basic grammar and common vocabulary before tackling advanced literature. I made this mistake when I first tried to learn guitar. I wanted to play my favorite songs immediately, but those songs were too difficult for a beginner. I got frustrated and gave up. Years later, when I tried again, I started with basic chords and simple songs. This approach was much more successful. Strategy 2. Set specific, realistic goals. Instead of saying, I want to be good at Spanish, say, I want to be able to have a basic conversation about daily life in Spanish within 6 months. Specific goals are easier to work toward and achieve. I use the SMART goal framework. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. A SMART goal might be, I will practice piano for 30 minutes every day and be able to play 3 simple songs by the end of this month. Strategy 3. Practice regularly, even if it's just a little bit. Consistency is more important than duration. It's better to practice 15 minutes every day than to practice for 3 hours once a week. Regular practice keeps the skill fresh in your mind and builds momentum. I struggle with this one. I tend to be enthusiastic at first and practice a lot, then lose momentum and stop. I'm learning that building a sustainable practice habit is more important than intense but sporadic effort. Strategy 4. Get feedback. Learning in isolation is much harder than learning with feedback. Find a teacher, mentor, or community who can tell you what you're doing well and what needs improvement. Feedback helps you correct mistakes before they become habits. When I was learning cooking on my own from videos, I didn't improve much because I didn't know what I was doing wrong. Once I joined a class and got feedback from an instructor, my learning accelerated dramatically. Strategy 5. Don't be afraid of mistakes.
Mistakes are how we learn. Every mistake is information. It tells you what doesn't work, so you can try something different. I know this intellectually, but emotionally, I still feel embarrassed when I make mistakes. I'm working on embracing mistakes as learning opportunities. In my Toastmasters Club, we have a saying, there are no mistakes, only learning opportunities. This mindset shift has really helped me. Strategy 6. Make it enjoyable. If learning feels like a chore, you won't stick with it. Find ways to make the learning process fun. If you're learning a language, watch movies in that language. If you're learning an instrument, play songs you love. Enjoyment sustains motivation. I love cooking now because I started making dishes I actually wanted to eat. When I was just following random recipes from cookbooks, it felt boring. But when I started learning to make my favorite foods, it became exciting. What strategies work for you? How do you approach learning new skills? Now, let me talk about common obstacles people face when learning new skills and how to overcome them. Obstacle 1, lack of time. This is probably the most common excuse. People say, I'd love to learn guitar, but I just don't have time. And yes, we're all busy, but usually lack of time is really about priorities. We find time for what's important to us. The solution is to start small. You don't need hours every day. Even 15 minutes counts. You can practice a language during your commute. You can do a quick drawing while waiting for dinner to cook. Small pockets of time add up. I used to say I didn't have time to exercise. Then I started doing just 10 minutes of exercise in the morning. It was so short that I couldn't use lack of time as an excuse. And you know what? Once I built the habit, I naturally started doing more. But starting with just 10 minutes made it achievable. Obstacle 2. Fear of failure or looking foolish. Many adults don't try new things because they're afraid of being bad at something. We're used to being competent. Being a beginner again is uncomfortable and vulnerable. The solution is to embrace beginner status. Everyone starts as a beginner. Everyone looks foolish at first. That's normal and okay. I had to let go of my ego when I started learning to dance. I looked ridiculous, but everyone in the class was also a beginner, and we were all ridiculous together. It was actually kind of freeing. Obstacle 3, lack of motivation or discipline. You start learning enthusiastically, but after a few weeks, the motivation fades. You skip practice sessions.
Eventually, you stop altogether. The solution is to build systems and habits rather than relying on motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. But if you have a system, a specific time and place where you practice, it becomes automatic. I practice cooking every Sunday afternoon. It's in my calendar. It's a habit now, not something I have to motivate myself to do each time. Obstacle 4, perfectionism. Some people won't try something unless they can do it perfectly. They practice in private and won't share their work or perform until it's perfect. But perfection is impossible, and this mindset prevents growth. The solution is to embrace good enough. Your first attempts don't have to be perfect. They just have to be done. I struggle with perfectionism in my writing. I would revise and revise, never feeling like it was good enough to share. I had to learn to ship it.
Imperfect work. To put it out there even when it wasn't perfect. This was scary but liberating. Obstacle 5, comparing yourself to others. You see someone who's amazing at the skill you're learning, and you feel discouraged. You think, I'll never be that good, so why bother? The solution is to compare yourself only to your past self. Are you better than you were last month? Last year? That's the only comparison that matters. Everyone's learning journey is different. Someone might have been practicing for years. Someone might have natural talent. That's not relevant to your journey. I have to remind myself of this constantly. When I see someone give an amazing speech, I feel inadequate. But then I remember how far I've come from my first terrified attempt. I'm competing only with myself. What obstacles do you face? How do you overcome them? Let me talk about the role of teachers and mentors in learning. While you can learn many things on your own, having guidance can make a huge difference. A good teacher can provide structure, expertise, feedback, and motivation. They know the common pitfalls and can help you avoid them. They can answer your questions and clarify confusion. They can push you when you're ready for the next challenge. But finding a good teacher isn't always easy or affordable. If you can't access traditional teaching, there are other options. Online courses, books, YouTube tutorials, podcasts like this one. We live in an amazing time for self-directed learning. I've learned a lot from free online resources. I learned basic coding from free websites. I learned photography techniques from YouTube. The information is out there if you're willing to search for it and teach yourself. Mentors are slightly different from teachers. A mentor is someone who guides and advises you based on their own experience. They might not formally teach you, but they share wisdom and insights. Having a mentor in your field can be incredibly valuable. I've been lucky to have several mentors in my life, people who are further along in their careers and willing to share their knowledge and experience with me. I try to pay this forward by mentoring others when I can. Learning communities are also valuable. When you're learning with others, you can support each other, share resources, celebrate progress together, and commiserate about challenges. This social aspect makes learning more enjoyable and sustainable. I mentioned my Toastmasters Club. That community has been essential to my public speaking journey. We encourage each other, we celebrate each other's progress, we create a safe space to practice and fail and try again. Do you learn better alone or with others? Do you have teachers or mentors? Now, let me discuss the relationship between age and learning. There's a common belief that you can't learn new skills when you're older. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, as the saying goes. But this is actually not true. Research shows that adults can learn new skills at any age. Yes, children might learn some things more easily, especially languages. Their brains are more plastic, more flexible. But adults have advantages too. Adults have better focus, discipline, and understanding of how they learn best. I think the real barrier isn't age, it's mindset. If you believe you're too old to learn something, you probably won't try. But if you believe learning is possible at any age, you'll be more willing to attempt it. I know people in their 60s and 70s who've learned new languages, musical instruments, sports, and technologies. Age doesn't have to stop you. The main thing you need is willingness to be a beginner again. That said, learning might look different at different ages. As an adult, you might not have as much free time as a child or student. You might need to be more strategic about practice, but you can absolutely still learn. When I decided to learn cooking in my 30s, some people said, "You should have learned this years ago." But you know what? I'm learning it now, and that's what matters. Better late than never. Have you ever felt like you were too old to learn something? How did you overcome that feeling?
Let me share some thoughts about balancing learning with other life responsibilities. Most of us can't dedicate our entire lives to learning. We have work, family, obligations. So how do we fit learning in? First, be realistic about what you can commit to. If you only have 30 minutes a week, that's okay. 30 minutes is better than nothing. Don't set goals that are impossible given your circumstances. That just sets you up for failure and frustration. Second, integrate learning into your life where possible. If you're learning a language, change your phone settings to that language. Listen to podcasts in that language while commuting. This kind of immersive, integrated learning doesn't require separate practice time. Third, communicate with people in your life. If learning is important to you, tell your family or partner. Ask for their support. Maybe they can help create time for you to practice. Maybe they'll even join you in learning. Fourth, remember that learning is an investment in yourself. It's not selfish to spend time on personal development. It's actually good for you, and by extension, good for the people around you. A person who's growing and learning is more engaged and fulfilled. I struggled with guilt about taking time to practice cooking or public speaking. I felt like I should be spending that time on work or with family, but I realized that learning makes me happier and more interesting. That benefits everyone in my life, not just me. How do you balance learning with other responsibilities? Now let me talk about something important, the plateau. The plateau is when you seem to stop making progress. You practice and practice, but you don't improve. You feel stuck. Plateaus are normal in learning. They happen to everyone. When you first start learning something, progress is usually rapid. You go from knowing nothing to knowing something, and that feels like huge progress. But as you advance, progress becomes less obvious. The improvements are more subtle. During a plateau, it's tempting to give up. You think, I'm not improving, so why bother? But plateaus are actually a sign that you're consolidating your learning. Your brain is processing and integrating everything you've learned. Breakthrough often comes after a plateau if you keep practicing. I experienced a plateau with cooking. For months, everything I made turned out okay, but not great. I felt stuck. I almost quit. But I kept practicing, and eventually something clicked. My understanding deepened. I started really tasting the differences between dishes and understanding why certain techniques worked. The plateau ended, and I reached a new level. If you're in a plateau, be patient. Keep practicing. Try changing your approach slightly. Maybe try a new
Different type of practice or a different resource. But don't give up. Breakthrough is coming. Have you experienced a plateau in learning? How did you handle it? Let me talk about the connection between learning and confidence. When you learn new skills, you build confidence. Not just confidence in that specific skill, but general self-confidence. You prove to yourself that you're capable of growth and change. I've noticed this in myself. Each new skill I learn, even if I don't master it, increases my confidence. Because I've proven that I can start as a complete beginner and improve. This makes me more willing to try other new things. Learning also keeps you humble. When you're a beginner at something, you remember what it's like not to know. This creates empathy. You become more patient with others who are learning. You remember that everyone starts somewhere. Being both confident and humble is a powerful combination. Confident enough to try new things, humble enough to accept being a beginner. Learning new skills also expands your identity. You become more than just your job or your current abilities. You're a person who learns, who grows, who tries new things. This enriches your sense of self. Before I started learning cooking and public speaking and other skills, I defined myself mainly by my work. But now I'm also someone who cooks, who speaks publicly, who's always learning something. This makes life more interesting and fulfilling. What new skills have you learned? How did they change you? As we start to wrap up, let me share some final thoughts about learning new skills. First, remember that learning is not just about the end result. It's about the journey. Yes, you want to eventually be able to play that song, or speak that language, or cook that dish. But the process of learning itself is valuable. The practice, the struggle, the small victories, they all enrich your life. Second, be kind to yourself. Learning is hard. You will make mistakes. You will feel frustrated. You will have days when you want to quit. All of this is normal. Talk to yourself the way you talk to a good friend who's struggling, with encouragement and compassion, not criticism. Third, celebrate progress, no matter how small. Did you practice today?
That's worth celebrating. Did you learn one new word or master one new technique? Celebrate that. Small wins add up to big achievements over time. Fourth, share your learning journey with others. Talk about what you're learning, share your successes and struggles. This creates accountability and connection. You might even inspire others to start their own learning journey. Fifth, remember why you started. When motivation wanes, reconnect with your original reason for learning. Why did this skill matter to you? What excited you about it? Reconnecting with your why can reignite your motivation. And finally, give yourself permission to learn just for the joy of it. Not everything you learn has to be useful or productive. It's okay to learn something just because it interests you, just because it brings you joy. Learning for its own sake is a beautiful thing. I've learned so much in the past few years, and I plan to keep learning for the rest of my life. There are so many skills I still want to develop, so many things I want to try. Learning keeps life interesting. It keeps me growing, it keeps me humble and curious. And you know what? The skills I've learned have opened up opportunities I never expected. My cooking skills have made me healthier and brought me joy. My public speaking skills have advanced my career. My language skills have allowed me to connect with people from different cultures. But beyond the practical benefits, learning has made me a better person, more patient, more resilient, more open-minded, and that's priceless. I hope today's conversation has inspired you to think about learning in a new way. Whether you're currently learning something or thinking about starting, I hope you feel encouraged and equipped. Remember, you're capable of learning anything you set your mind to. It might take time, it might be challenging, but it's possible. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master spent years practicing. You can do this too. I'd love to hear from you. What new skill are you learning or want to learn? What challenges are you facing in your learning journey? What successes have you had? Leave a comment below and practice talking about learning in English. I read all the comments, and I'd love to hear your stories. And please, like and subscribe to English Club for more English learning podcasts. Thank you so much for listening today. I know this was a long episode, but I hope you found it valuable and inspiring. Keep practicing your English. Keep learning new things. Keep growing and challenging yourself. And remember, every time you practice, every time you try something new, you're becoming a better version of yourself. Thank you again for being here with me today. Keep learning, keep growing, and believe in your ability to develop new skills. You've got this. See you in the next episode. Take care.